Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
I'm showing here the 17 different sustainable development goals that have been proposed by the United Nations. And the point I want to make here is that most of these goals are not only about environmental protection. Now, related to the issue of energy that I discussed on the previous slide, this is UN Sustainable Development Goal number 7. And it says that we need to ensure affordable and clean energy. So they don't only talk about clean energy, it has to be affordable also. The 12th goal of sustainable development is about resource consumption, and it doesn't say that you need to reduce your consumption as much as possible. It says you need to have responsible consumption and production. And there are other things about zero hunger, quality education, gender equality, sanitation, and so on. So the point here is that the sustainability concept is much beyond climate change or environmental protection. So specific to the energy related goal, there are certain targets that have been set, and as I said, they talk about affordable and reliable energy sources. There is talk about renewable energy, there is talk about energy efficiency, and so on. So the important learning outcomes of this module are that the sustainability definition has 3 dimensions. It goes beyond environmental protection. A very important point is that sustainability is very human centric. We are still talking about human sustainability. And there are sustainable development goals proposed by the United Nations that provide specific targets for every country to achieve. In this module, I am going to take up one example and illustrate these various dimensions and how to discuss a particular problem from the sustainability point of view. I am going to take up a problem that I briefly mentioned during the first module. I asked you several questions in the first module and wanted your opinion on that. And one of the questions was about the construction of metro shed in R.A. Milk Colony in Mumbai. Now this topic was widely discussed last year around July and August, because that was the time when the decisions were being made. And the point, let me first explain the issue. So in Mumbai there is construction of metro going on, and one of the metro line ends very close to the R.A. Milk Colony. So the government had proposed that the car shed which will be used to maintain and clean the metro cars will be constructed in a piece of land that is taken from the R.A. Milk Colony. You might be knowing that the R.A. Milk Colony is part of the Sanjay Gandhi National Park. It is just on the outskirts of the park, and it is part of the forest protected area. So in order to construct this metro shed, the government would need to cut down about 2,700 trees. The environmental activists were arguing that this is not a good thing because you are cutting down trees, which is not good for the environment. Already the city of Mumbai is choked. There is too much pollution, there is too much CO2 emission, and whatever little green cover that we have, you are also now starting to use that. So that is not a good thing. The government on the other side was arguing that constructing the metro shed in this particular piece of land, on this land, is the most convenient and feasible option. The other option to do the same thing was a piece of land in Kanjur Marg, which was about 10 kilometers away. And this was the debate that was going on. Now what I will do in the next few slides is to look at this problem from the sustainability point of view. Before I start, I want you to just pause this video and think and make up your mind without actually hearing the arguments. Just in your mind, make a decision. Should the metro shed be constructed on RA land or should it not be constructed? And what I'll do now is I will look at all the 3 dimensions and identify the positive and negative aspects. Now keep in mind that I am considering that construction of this metro shed on R.A. Milk Colony as the action, and I will say whether that action leads to a positive effect or a negative effect. So let's start with the environmental dimension. Now the first factor which I mentioned very briefly earlier is the CO2 sequestration capability. So if you are cutting down trees, then the CO2 sequestration capability is reduced, which is not a good thing, which is definitely a negative. Additionally, trees also provide several other benefits. They reduce soil erosion because of their root structure. Trees also help reduce the surrounding temperature. Trees also help us in settling the particulate matter, and therefore the particulate matter content in the air goes down. So if we are cutting down trees, then all these benefits are gone, which is again a very big negative. The third point is that RA Milk Colony, as I said, is next to the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, which is home to several wild animals. So if any construction activity happens on this piece of land, it will definitely affect these animals, which is again not a good thing from their well-being perspective. So from an environmental perspective, these are the three negatives. But again, from the environmental perspective, there could be some positives also. This may not seem very obvious, but I'll list some of those. Now, one of the big benefits of construction of metro is that it will reduce the use of private cars. That is the whole idea, that if you have public transport which is efficient, the number of cars on road will go down. And it is expected that this will lead to reduced emission. In fact, one study which I will show later on has reported that 7 days of metro operation will cut an amount of CO2 equivalent to that absorbed by 2700 trees in a single year. So I agree that this is a benefit of the whole metro operation, not just this particular metro shed. But the point being made here is that if you delay construction of metro shed and therefore the operationalization of metro, every week you are actually giving up this benefit, which could potentially be there because the number of cars on the road would go down. So if you are able to construct the metro shed on RA colony land, you are going to get this construction done soon, and therefore you will have this benefit. So that's a positive thing if you use the RA land. But there could be a negative also, because metro itself may not be very energy efficient. Metro runs on electricity, and if you look at the current electricity mix in India, most of it is still fossil based. A lot of it is coal based. So the point that is being made is that, okay, you are reducing the number of cars on the road, but you are increasing the consumption of electricity. Most of that electricity comes from fossil sources. So you are effectively pushing the emission to somewhere else. And in fact, there are arguments being made that electricity use is actually even worse than using petrol or diesel. So if you are not using the metro land and that avoids the metro construction, that's a negative. But then the counter argument provided to this is that metro may not be very efficient right now, but with the improvement on technology and with the change in the electricity grid over the next few years, it is expected that electricity production will become more renewable, and therefore the whole metro line will become carbon negative by 2031. So if you are able to construct the metro shed on this RA land and get metro operational as soon as possible, you will be able to get this benefit. If you delay the metro operation, then your carbon negative point will come much later. So you see that even in the environmental dimension, there are competing views or competing trends. Now let's look at economic dimension. So one of the biggest argument that the government has been making is that RA colony is a government land, and therefore it is very cost effective. They don't have to pay anybody for this land, and therefore the cost of the whole metro line will go down, which is a positive from an economic point of view. The alternate land that I mentioned, which is in Kanjur Marg, is a private land, and therefore the government will have to purchase that land. Now, it was estimated last year that the purchase price could be about 2600 crores. So by using the RA land, you are avoiding these costs, and which is a positive thing for the government. It is also argued that if your car shed is at a different place, let's say in Kanjur Marg, then you have to provide additional facilities or additional link to make sure that your end of the metro line is connected to the car shed. which means additional construction, additional facilities, and so on, which will increase the cost. And therefore, if you are setting up the RA shed, if you are setting up the metro shed in RA, then you are avoiding these costs, and therefore it's a positive. So that's the economic perspective. So from economic perspective, it seems that there is no doubt. Constructing in RA land is positive, beneficial. Let's look at the social dimension. Now, I talked about the cost on the previous slide, and cost is actually a factor which is both economic as well as social, because if the cost of the whole construction increases, then it will increase the price of the tickets, and therefore it is possible that many may not be able to afford it. So if you are able to construct the car shed on RA land, the cost of the whole enterprise goes down and it leads to lower ticket prices, and therefore it's a positive thing from a societal perspective. It will encourage more people to use metro. But on the other hand, there are going to be some negative effect in the to the local residents. Whenever there is a construction activity, there are pollution effects. It doesn't matter how effective that activity is. Now here you will be cutting down trees, you will be setting up the metro shed. Even when the metro shed starts operations, it will lead to some water pollution because metro cars will be washed there, they will be maintained, so there will be some petroleum leakage and so on. So there are going to be some negative effects in the local region, which is not good. The other point is that many residents who live in that area, in the RA colony area, depend on the forest for their livelihood. And if you are doing some construction activity and subsequently the metro shed starts functioning, it will affect the surrounding areas, and therefore it will affect the livelihood of the local residents, which is again a negative thing. And finally, the point that is actually very, very important is that now I want to start moving towards more engineering oriented discussion. All the previous discussion that we had was very generic. It could apply to any field. Now all of us are engineers or scientists, and therefore it is important for us to start thinking about how this can be relevant for solving engineering problems or making engineering decisions. So in this module, I will discuss how sustainability can be incorporated in engineering and what are some of the major challenges in doing so. So sustainable engineering is essentially the idea of implementing the concept of sustainability in engineering design decisions. So whatever the different factors that I mentioned in the previous modules, be it environmental, economical, social, and so on, what sustainable engineering preaches or says is that whenever you make an engineering design decision, you should follow this principle of looking at all three dimensions. Now it is not so straightforward, because if you look at how decisions are traditionally made in engineering domain, we look at these three dimensions in isolation. And I'll give a very generic example. Let's say we are talking about a manufacturing facility. Now, whenever someone decides to set up a manufacturing facility, that decision is driven by the demand for that product in the society. So the company or the person or the investor will find out, okay, this is a particular product that is in demand in society, so we need to produce it. So the driver to set up a manufacturing facility or an engineering facility is typically demand from the society. It could also be to provide jobs to the society and so on. So primarily it's a society driven initiative. Then what happens? So then let's say if we decide to set up a manufacturing facility for a particular product, then you go into the engineering design stage, you design your plant, you set up your plant. And while you do that, the primary focus is to set up this plant in the most economical fashion. So the factors that are often considered while designing a plant are net present value, payback period, internal rate of return. And as part of the engineering curriculum, I am sure you have learned or you will learn many of these things. So if you look at any engineering design problem, and it invariably the metric against which it is compared is an economic metric. How is it profitable or not profitable? So we have a driver which is societal, but then the decision making on how to design, what design to select is primarily economical. And then once the design is made, then then we look at the environmental point of view. We say that, okay, there are some pollutants that are coming out. Maybe there are air emissions that are coming out. So you put an electrostatic precipitator. You identify that some water pollution is happening, some discharge is happening. So you set up a water treatment plant or try to achieve zero liquid discharge. You look at safety aspect, which is a social aspect, because you want to ensure that your employees are safe. So the environmental and social aspect is typically considered at the very end. So the point that I made a little while ago, that these dimensions are looked or considered in isolation. Now what we want in sustainable engineering is to combine these three. So don't look at these three in isolation, but make sure that you are considering all these three dimensions together while you design an engineering system. That's the whole idea of sustainable engineering. And this is a very abstract, kind of very generic pictorial representation. But very often, and this point was made in the last module, that there are trade-offs. So you may have one particular solution which is represented in green here, which is a very desirable solution from an environmental perspective because the environmental impacts are low. It is an acceptable solution from a societal perspective, but from an economic perspective, it is not a good solution. You may have another design which is very good from an economic point of view. It's a very cost-effective solution. Let's say the societal impacts are more or less the same, but the environmental impacts are really high. So the objective in a lot of engineering research is to bring both of these design close to the zone of sustainability. And I'll give you a very simple example. If you look at fuels, now there is most of our fuel consumption is right now from petrol, and it's a very cost-effective solution, but there are environmental problems. So there is a lot of research going on making sure that your petroleum refining operation is as clean as possible. So you are essentially trying to bring that technology along this path. On the other hand, something like biofuel, which is environmentally good, but it is economically not desirable right now because it's very costly. So a lot of research is focused on reducing the cost of biofuel production. So if you look at any engineering problem from the sustainability or that relates to sustainability, it could be about reducing the environmental impact, it could be about reducing the cost of the technology, or it could be making it more safe and so on. What if you have to now start practicing this in your engineering problem? So all of you are engineers, most of you are engineers, I suppose. And let's say whatever problem that you are dealing with, you have to start now using the concepts of sustainability in your problem. Now that may sound like a straightforward thing, but it's a very difficult thing. And I'll tell you why. So I've given here the definition of sustainability that we previously looked at. I told you that this is the most popular definition of sustainability and sustainable development. And I've highlighted some words there which I want to further discuss. Now, this definition talks about the needs of the present generation and the needs of the future generation. Now, the question is, what do you think are your needs? Now, we discussed this during the human well-being discussion, and we figured out that the factors that humans value are very different. What your needs could be very different from someone else's need. The second point is the definition also talks about future generation. The question is, what is your definition of future? It also talks about compromise. So the question is, what is an acceptable level of compromise? And finally, who makes these decisions? So these are some important questions. So I want you to pause this video for a short while and think about these 4 questions. What are your needs? What is your definition of future? What is the acceptable compromise, and who should make these decisions? So I hope you have come up with some answers or some ideas. Now I also don't know the answer, to be honest. But let me tell you some of the problems here. So I mentioned this about the needs. So what is defined as a need? Now for us living in cities, 24-hour electricity is a need. It's something that we expect. 24-hour uninterrupted water supply is a need that we expect. But if you go, let's say 100 kilometers away from the city, you will hit rural areas where 24 hours of electricity is luxury. For them, the need is maybe 2-3 hours of electricity and they are happy. So the point is, the need is a function of socio-economic status and lifestyle. And it varies not only in societies, not only in countries, but definitely globally. Here we are not able to decide the need of a society, and now we are also talking about the need of the future generation, which we don't know what the future generation will be. So it's a very difficult question to answer. The second question is, what is your definition of future? Again, technically next second is future, but the definition of future changes from person to person. For students and teachers, people like me and you, future is limited to one semester. What I want to do in next semester, how much do I need to score? If you look at businesses, the future definition is 1 year. They are only worried about their annual profit or maybe even quarter. That's their focus. If you think about governments, the future definition is about 5 years, because that's when the elections happen in India. So everybody is thinking about next 5 years. If you look at ecologists, if you think about ecologists and geologists, they are talking in terms of decades or centuries, because many of these natural processes are really slow. So the point is, the definition of future changes based on who you are talking to. The third point was compromise. What should be the level of compromise? And can you actually ask someone to make a compromise? So tomorrow, can I come to you and say that no, instead of using electricity for 24 hours, you should use it only for 12 hours. And you will start questioning, who am I to decide? If I can pay for the electricity, if I can pay for 24-hour access, why can't I use it? So how can you expect someone else to compromise? And what should be the level of that compromise? And finally, who makes the decision? You cannot force someone else to make a decision. Or you cannot force someone else to change their habits or their lifestyle just because you think it is good for the overall society. Eventually, it has to be voluntary. Even governments in a democratic setup have a limited capability of doing so. So when you start thinking that how can I start practicing these sustainability concepts in my engineering decision making, these challenges suddenly come up. Some of the other issues that are often encountered is, how do you value ecosystem service? So let us say your engineering, your product leads to a particular impact on water pollution. It has a certain impact on water pollution. Or it leads to deforestation, and therefore the water purification capability of the forest is going down. Now, how do you value that service? It is not very easy to value an ecosystem service. To convert everything into money is always not possible. Second is, how do you value human life? Now, to a certain extent, we do that when we purchase insurance, health insurance. We are essentially valuing ourselves. But it's not a very easy thing. Someone who is very close to me, I will obviously think that person is more valuable. But someone I don't know, I won't be so considerate about the life and death of that particular person. So these are very difficult questions to answer. And unless we make some decisions, we cannot move ahead. So, sustainable engineering is a very complex issue. It is not a straightforward issue. There are a lot of uncertainties. There are multiple scales involved. There is evolution and adaptation. And therefore, we can say that sustainability is a wicked problem. Now, I will ask you to search a little bit about what we call as a wicked problem. But sustainable engineering is often classified as a wicked problem. So, in order to operationalize sustainable engineering, we need to look at 3 different tasks. And these are very important. First, we need to make sure that we are solving the right problem. which means that we are looking at the problem from the systems perspective. We are understanding all these trade-offs. We look beyond science and engineering and technology and understand the human and ecosystem dimension. So a lot of the discussion that we have had so far in this course has essentially brought out this point that what you think as a straightforward decision is not necessarily straightforward. The second point is measurement. Now, when I discussed the problem of metro shed, we understood that there are trade-offs. Now, whether one is better than the other, we cannot answer that question until we start measuring things, which means I need to know if I do this particular thing, what is going to be the environmental impact. If I do another thing, what is going to be the environmental impact or social impact. So quantification is very important, where things like indicators and indices, life cycle assessment, footprint calculations come in. The third part is we need to probably learn different methods of engineering design. There is a very famous saying which says that we cannot solve the problem using methods that have led to the problems. So the conventional engineering design methods cannot be used. We have to learn new methods. So this includes things like industrial ecology, circular economy, biomimicry, green engineering. Now this slide is very important because this essentially covers what we are going to discuss in this course. We have already started the first part. A lot of our discussion, as I have said, was focused on how to identify the right problem, how to look at it from various dimensions. Now moving ahead, the next two aspects of the course will be quantification and assessment, where we will learn all these methods, and the third component will be understanding new design approaches, and we will again learn all these approaches that I have mentioned. So the learning outcome of this module is the definition of sustainability is too generic, and when we start applying it to engineering problems, it needs to have some specific we need to come up with some specific points, and we need to learn some new methods and tools to actually start practicing sustainable engineering. Thank you.